Hello everyone and good morning. Thank you to all of the viewers tuning in today to 17th Korea Daily Online College Fair and Content Series. My name is Dave Lee, an Education Campaign Manager from the Korea Daily. Did you guys all enjoy watching our 17th Online College Fair live streamed last week? To watch a full college fair, you may visit 미주중앙일보 YouTube channel or visit catchup_official YouTube channel for Korean translated college fair clips. For today's content series, we prepared 3 webinars from 3 admission experts on topics of FAFSA, college admission strategies, and then finding right fit of extracurricular activities. 오늘 공개되는 컨텐츠 시리즈는 AGM 인스티튜트 리차드 명 대표가 전하는 학자금 재정 보조를 위한 올바른 사전 설계, 보스턴 에듀케이션 김원종 카운셀러가 전하는 탑 명문대마다 다른 각 대학별 합격 전략, 그리고 어드미션 마스터스 빈센트 수석 카운셀러가 전하는 대입을 위한 최고의 과외 활동이란 3가지 웨비나로 준비됐습니다. First, we have Richard Myung from AGM Institute featuring Understanding College Financial Aid and Problem Solving. This is a friendly reminder that if any of viewers have questions about his webinar and would like to know more about logistics of FAFSA, you may directly contact via his email that will be shown at the very end of his webinar. Then without a further ado, let's welcome Richard Myung.
Hello everyone, my name is Richard Myung in AGM Institute. I'm so glad to see you all, and I will discuss about understanding college financial aid and also problem-solving skills, especially during this presentation. And it would really include definitely very important information updated by the government this year. And let's take a look at it. And the eligibility is very important issue. And for the eligibility of college financial aid is based on the student's status. If the student is at least a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen or GPA over a 2.0 out of 4.0 scale and over, or drug record, they don't ask for those questions anymore. And also even international students are exceptionally applied for a certain number of private schools. They would offer majority major financial aid amount. And also undocumented or DACA students, it depends on which state you are resident there, and will definitely offer a certain amount of financial aid. So international students, of course, the even undocumented or DACA would be categorized under international too. So limited by international student grants, but especially the over 179 schools out there normally offer based on your financial circumstances. So please never give up. And let's take a look at what types of financial aid are composed of. There are 2 types of financial aid. First one is merit-based, which is based on personal talents or relative awards. Second type is need-based financial aid, which is based on only income and asset of the student and parents or guardians. So it's based on income, asset, how many students are enrolling from their household of the given year, or a number of household size, household members, the larger the better, and also net worth of business currently operating, or something like that. So need-based is the magnification of a merit-based financial aid. So if you receive or offered by merit-based financial aid, which is scholarship, merit scholarship, something like that, will be deducted from need-based financial aid. So the remaining portion calculated by need-based will be offered for you. So even though you are not qualifiable for merit-based financial aid, never give up. It is not a big matter for that. So if we look at this diagram and cost of attendance, our financial aid is calculated upon cost of attendance. So total cost of attendance means that actually include student tuition, room and board, book costs, transportation fees, and personal expenses, something like that. So out of each school's total cost of attendance, and according to the 3 different types of formula the school applies for, will calculate your expected family contribution amount, your liability portion, which is after tax dollar, will be deducted from cost of attendance, which is called financial need. So this financial need is a maximum financial aid available, targeted kind of amount that to be calculated. So according to the state university versus the private universities, state university normally pays around 62 to 72% of this financial need amount. And also majority of the portion of such financial aid amount will be based on the grant or scholarships, which would be around 55 to maybe 65% range in normal. And also the remaining portion would be self-help. We call that like a work-study programs or student loan, parent loans, or something like that. Where the private university is a huge, high cost of attendance, but after deducting their own EFC according to their own formula, the remaining portion usually the private school offers in between 72 to 86% range of the financial aid, and also the 62 to 72 to 86% is free money of the entire given financial aid amount. So that is really crucial, where you can actually target private university with a much less cost than the state university as well. Next slide actually shows your college financial aid procedures. And timeline is usually FAFSA, free application for federal student aid, and also CSS profile through College Board is started from October the 1st. So it depends on which application you are using. Like all the applications, usually the deadline for submitting, we call the priority deadline of the schools, is usually by the end of October or the first or second week of November. But regular applying students would be a little bit extended for the deadline. After that, the returning student will be required to file the financial aid. It depends on each school, so where they are located. So the most priority deadline is based on the school. Then state deadline is important. And also the federal deadline is also important, but usually as long as you meet a prior deadline, would be no problem for processing any financial aid. But most of parents, they misunderstand that the sooner applying financial aid is better than any situations. Of course not. As long as you meet the deadline, priority deadline, there's no big differences as well. You can actually make more mistakes if you rush them out. FAFSA is a free application for federal student aid, and its deadline is very important. Usually the deadline for FAFSA is June the 1st next year, and state deadlines are where the school is located. By the way, this FAFSA application is to calculate only federal and state financial aid amount. So if you look at this FAFSA application, the first page, then you can see all the deadlines for each states. And also CSS profile is also very important, especially private schools with a lot of financial aid and also grant amount. You usually require this CSS profile and much detailed information. They want to know you more, and they want to know your parents' business or more details about your assets. That's why CSS profile is offered by College Board. And also sometimes it contains more than 360 questionnaires, and no matter what in the information you put it in, and it will be calculable, especially for expected family contribution amount. So you have to understand the financial aid formula before you type it in, your income or asset informations. So requirements for college financial aid is very simple, and only a few things, but very complex. So FAFSA is a free application for federal student aid, and also CSS profile I previously mentioned about how you submit it, where you submit. And also IDOC system is kind of information verification system. So any schools registered requiring CSU profile and registered with IDOC system, and you have to submit all the verifiable information, including income verification, expense verifications, and through IDOC system in a timely manner. And also some schools, they require their own institutional financial aid application as well. And after you submit all your information, you need to follow it up. And also you should be able to evaluate what you are offered from the average financial aid percentage from the school. So you can actually start making negotiations but sometimes you might have financial hardship conditions, and that is really important, critically important, the information. So you must specialize the advantage of special circumstances during your CSS profile. And problems of early admissions, of course, the reason is college financial aid and admissions are they're directly linked, but usually financial aid application status does not put you in a need-aware policy at all. It is a need-blind policy, which means that actually no matter what your information or application status does not impact your admission process. However, here we have a little problems, especially when you prepare for early decision or early actions. Your deadline for college financial aid is much earlier than regular applying students. And also timing is essential because the problem is the early decision or admissions will be announced in between December the 12th through December the 18th. And many states, they already go through the winter vacation. So there are very limited the teachers availability, where once you get all the decision, all the actions, usually around 70% of all these applicants will be automatically deferred, will definitely require additional recommendation. So it would be you have to approach very strategic ways of doing it. And also financial aid effects and lack of preparation is really important thing, even though you are admitted through all the admission process. But if you don't furnish all the required document by following up, your application will not be processed. And of course, this appealing process, according to any disadvantages or mis-awarded or under-awarded situations, but it looks like equal but not equal. It depends on how you efficiently understand and process your financial aid applications and follow up. And so financial aid appealing is literally there are a lot of the invisible limits, but it will take more time to explain about all the details today, so I will just skip it. So this is really informative information for you. According to our institute, actually we created some consolidated the admission ratio for the last 5 years. But this is interesting. Usually, if you look at here, Princeton University, like 5 years ago, it was admission rate was 5%. But last year, it was 4%. So normally we can think of only 1% has been reduced, but actually in reality, it is not. It's a 1/5, which is about 20% the admission rate has came down. How about this, the Brown University, 7 versus 5 is 2% difference, but 2/7. It's not going to be just only 1-digit decrease, like a 2-digit decrease, right? So we have to understand there are more millennial baby boomer generations that are competing each other. So it is not only to maximize your college financial aid, of course, you have to take an X-ray of your own profile for college admission. So if you put yourself in from admission counselor's point of view as a preferred student to register the school, then actually you have a better advantages for college financial aid because they don't even mind to give you a lot of scholarships to recruit the applicants. So the importance of college application, this is related to the how to maximize financial aid because how much competitive applicants we have, how you can improve your profile will definitely result in a better financial aid. So we had about 4 million students that graduated in 2020. Of course, this year we got about 4.2 million or something like that out of 27,000 high schools. So how many are valedictorians or second ranked students, like 27,000 each? How about the SJ presidents or the school editors, 27,000 each? And also we got more than, 1530 or SAT scores, we have more than 55,000 students. So by consolidating all these numbers, by eliminating the like a dual categories, and we're going to have about 180,000 students where top 10 school actually select only 22,000 students at most, including all majors. So to make a big difference is pass or fail will be done through only 1% difference, which is called application. So understanding application is very important thing. The next topic is what kind of the income or asset area could be crucial to prevent any financial aid disadvantages. So if you look at this, obstacles, for college financial aid is based on EFC calculation factors. If you see income-wise, there is a taxed income or untaxed income. What is untaxed income? Untaxed income is more likely somebody supported you or helped you out. You never even paid any taxes on those amounts, but you got support. So or even 401k, IRAs, like you didn't pay any taxes that year. Tax has been deferred. That is considered as an untaxed income, which is very disadvantageous because you have a choice. You could utilize such amount for the students' financial aid. Financial aid sources are from federal government, state government, also from parents or someone else's. So if anyone helped you out or you took advantages, and actually will be calculated much higher EFC, and to eliminate such kind of any additional benefits. So financial assets, of course, cash savings and investment properties, investment properties are actually included to the parents' asset, which is not easily liquidable, very disadvantageous. The business values, it depends on how you value your business, any market value or fire sale value or federal guided index values or something like that. Even college savings plan is, unless your tax bracket over 30 or more %, and this college savings plan will increase the huge amount of your EFC. So because of the lack of financial aid, and the parent or any owner of the college savings plan must use that amount to offset the financial aid averages. So decreasing factors for financial aid: taxed income, untaxed income, assets, heavily countable assets, and also others. If you see tax income or business income or personal income, untaxed income is based on all the contribution of this 401k, IRA, Roth IRA, SEP IRA, or something like that. And assets category is like this. And the most highly impacted asset category is more likely the college savings plan, which is targeted for college financial aid. And also brokerage account. There are two types of IRAs. One is on the brokerage account under annuity. IRA under annuity is not, you don't need to worry about, because annuity or cash value of life insurance will not be countable asset. But on the brokerage account, you have to type it in during your CSS profile or other application process, which means that actually they are going to increase your EFC by calculating those dollars. And other factors would be listed in that way. How about net price calculator? This is very crucial. Many student families, they try to measure how much their net price after receiving financial aid amount to be, or by accessing each college website. And since 2010, October the 1st, it is mandatory to post the kind of calculator in each college's website. However, college is actually using this net price calculator in reverse for their own marketing purposes. If anyone could find, their EFC and net price is so high, so they have to pay more financial, more their own out-of-pocket cost, then actually they are not going to apply for their college. So college has a strong concerns about it, and they try to they welcome everybody to apply for their school. And also they could select the better students with the same conditions. And normally they do not calculate some crucial factors such as a 401k contribution or IRA contributions or any kind of similar things. So by disclosing the price of attendance and financial aid ability may change after when they go for evaluation period or verifying period, because they will definitely ask for income verification and asset verifications. So you must, so I personally do not trust about this net price calculator. It is normally easily being used for marketing purposes from the schools. Causes for college financial aid failure. Yeah, it is important to understand exactly what could cause financial aid failure by making simple mistake, because the taxation data is like a prior year's taxation data, where your current situation will not be the same as 2 years ago, right? Or a year ago. And so that is outdated data. Let's say you had a huge cash on the CD and you got an interest income then, but you could use it up for any living expenses, so you might not have those dollars in your current issue. But during the verification process, a school definitely want to know exactly all the details about it. So you must be able to prepare for any upcoming questions, and you should be able to avoid any types of liability could cause. And also, second thing is asset applied to process date, which is very important thing, actually processed date. So income is applied to prior income when you apply for financial aid, but actually they will ask you your asset amount as of a process date, application process date. 1099-R, this is crucial. Anyone who just transferred one IRA to another IRA, you don't have any liabilities to pay any taxes unless you withdraw by yourself. However, they will issue 1099-R, and so it shows that how much money was transferred, but you don't have any tax liability, or if you withdraw something amount, then you have to pay your tax liabilities or something like that, which means this 1099-R will be heavily imposed for EFC increase if you use a direct transfer methods, like we call that IRA DRT method when you file FAFSA. So automatic transfer might not be advantageous for you. You must understand exactly how this could impact your EFC. Capital gains. Of course, a couple of years ago, maybe the parent could sell one of the properties or causing all the capital gains. But these days, and then they might not have such an asset. But tax document shows exactly how much was held or got gains or something, all the details, then you have to be really careful how to handle these type of informations when you file FAPS or CSS profile. Interest income is very obvious. Interest is from the chunk of the savings or whatever cash on hand. So it will definitely show which bank or institution names even on your tax documents. So you have to be really careful and when you handle this information. So for the income and asset, this is very common mistakes that you could make these days, and actually where the parents are holding their assets out of country or outside the country or cash income. Let's say they just rented or leased that property, they received a chunk of the cash to their checking account out of country. And then anything over certain $10,000 and definitely will definitely be reported through the factor on your tax document. So, and also how much it was it. And also anyone is a transfer that portion of the money to another bank and also another bank, and each bank balance will be combined together. So could be crucial, especially to handle this type of account. You definitely need to take advice from the professionals. Brokerage account, of course, I told you, and IRA brokerage account or Roth IRA brokerage account, several brokerage account, you have to be handled with care. This is mistaking areas commonly. Like I just put the whole picture, like the college application practice side. If you go to common application, there's an education section and honors, and also you have to put down achievement record. That if you take a student's X-ray, like a current academic X-ray in advance, then actually you could take advantage by fulfilling all the defaults and those questions, which will definitely enhance the student quality as a preferred student to register. Student profile management is a very important thing associated with this #1 practice college, and the roadmap for preparation and timing, like managing academic index and extracurricular activities, personal qualification will be important thing. And also strategic college selection will definitely enhance the financial aid, the advantages, because you are putting those colleges to competing each other to recruit applicants, preferred students. So that is a very important application process too. And also college financial aid preparation and planning in advance, and as well as appealing it would be very, very important factors as well. So the utilizing financial aid application versus admission process, mostly the people, they don't know how to utilize it, but I'm going to introduce exactly how you can do it later on. And IDOC system is also very important thing. If you did not furnish exactly the necessary the verification documents on time, they are not going to start evaluating your financial aid. So regardless of how soon you apply for financial aid, if you don't furnish or fulfill all their verifiable data on time, and would be crucial to maximize financial aid. So this is the kind of area I categorize, the college financial aid versus college admission, how they influence each other. So financial aid would not influence college admission process because it is a need blind policy. When you apply for college financial aid, and actually they are not going to take a look at it unless they decide to issue admission. But college admission wise, and if you college admission, if they categorize the applicant as a preferred student to register, they don't even mind to the more free money, such as gifted area, grant or scholarship, merit-based scholarship, or even need-based scholarship than anyone else. Advantages, of course, of financial aid, if you, based on how you select the applying, like the colleges, the FAFSA allow you to put 10 school list. So it is based on how you strategically select those schools according to the maximum financial aid, and as a batch could make a huge differences, because they are allowed to see actually the list of the schools, and actually you put it in, even though they are not able to see all the submitted data. So which means that you are actually putting this batch of the school to compete each other to evaluate you. So financial aid, you have to take a financial aid by selecting strategic way of college selection when you apply, will definitely be beneficial for college admission decision too. But college admissions, of course, could take a lot of the advantage of financial aid because of the preference of each school for the applicants, right? So key factor, as I said, student profile building as soon as possible, as well as a student financial aid preparation will be very important part. So what parents should do at the time of applying financial aid, or the selecting strategic way of selecting the school, is to provide this type of roadmap. Like by selecting the college, you have to do the research, the graduation within 6 years. Usually, the College Board, they changed this data based on 4 years from this year. However, the graduating within 4 years and international average is only 52%. So usually, I believe that like within 60 years it will be okay, because financial aid also is offered 150% of the degree program, so which is about 6 years. So if you look at this, cost of attendance is quite different, and expected family contribution is calculated based on the same information because of the different formulas each school apply for. So financial need amount is the difference, and financial aid percent on average is paid for applied to financial need. Is this school is around 59 versus 100%, 100%, 99%. Actually, each yearly very slightly changes. It is not a big matter, but the composition wise, the grant scholarship versus work study loans, which means a gifted aid versus a self-help percentage, and you could see the huge differences. How about this college? Like almost 85% of this amount is based on the free money. And so eventually, the most of the cases and the private university offers a much better financial aid package than the state university. So actually, majority of the major students could attend the private school with less cost than the state universities in most of the cases. So 7 mistakes you must know. And first of all, the biggest mistake is because the student families, they don't experience what financial aid to be, and so they are not familiar with the U.S. system. They try to seek for the advices. By the way, it is based on income and asset. So unless the advisor on hold does not hold any licenses, which is illegal. Like do not ask for help from non-professional licensed person. Usually this type of things are happening from private academies, because the parents, and they always ask for, do you provide financial aid applications? Like applying financial aid doesn't mean that actually you will maximize the financial aid package. So where they don't even have a license, and with limited experiences, and usually there are a lot of situations happening, and sometimes even audit situations are the crucial So you have to be very careful. You have to really compare each advices from every professional, and you have to check whether or not they hold the licenses. And some parents, they say, my child will take care of it. Good luck. It's not just the submitting the application. The information is more important thing. The student, majority of cases, student doesn't even understand the terminologies. How do they understand even what 1040 is, like a 1120 or 1120S? What is AGI? They don't even have an idea. And also, they could ask for, hi, Dad, what is our home value? Or blah, 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 blah. But there are three different type of value, right? Fair market value, tax assessment value, federal housing index values. It depends on which value you put it in. Your financial aid could be differentiated to more than $5,000, even $10,000 easily. And just focusing on financial aid application submission, I'm completed, and that would be all. That is one of the biggest mistakes actually you could face, because application and result would be different. And once the application is submitted, the college will take care of it. That is more like giving a fish to the cat. And because the college, their goal is to try to choose the better student with the minimum cost. So, and they will definitely evaluate it against your will. Our income is too high? Of course not. It depends on how let's say you have an even medium income range, but father is maximizing 401k contributions, and you can easily avoid, several $1,000s or even 10,000 EFC increase by doing prior planning, such as a 401k delay techniques or something like that. And also, anyone is doing a business and definitely would be able to maximize their financial aid. As an example, there were $270,000 income is generated from the business, but the family needed only $120,000. So after deducting all the taxes that they're contributing $100,000 to by the corporate plan, like a corporate trust, like a profit sharing or safe harbor or the cash balance plan or 412(3) defined benefit plan. So they could be, they will be able to technically avoid any EFC increase by maximizing their financial aid and also by maximizing tax deductions too. Our income is very low and I'll be all right. This is a critical situation if you are not awarded for the enough financial aid. Let's say somebody is filing only $40,000 in income taxes where they are spending $6,000 a month. Who's going to believe it? So school is recalculate and by reverse the situation to by assuming spending yours about $6,000 a monthly income. So your EFC will be highly calculated according to such untaxed income. So of course, as I said here, the last one, college application market with, I don't need financial aid because of the fear that the admission rate might be dropped, but that is a total mistake. If you mark with, I don't need a financial aid of the year, they're not going to give you financial aid. And you have to wait another year. But most of student families, they say, I got a special circumstances. I definitely need it, even though I didn't apply for financial aid. But it could be ignored in vain. In most of cases, be careful not to mark. You don't need a financial aid. Financial aid procedures like a preparation and planning, application filings, and evaluation, appealing process, also completion of remaining tasks, something like that, and finalization. And if you have any questions, just ask me later so I can explain a little bit more details. So, college financial aid is, of course, it is not an accumulation method. It is based on need basis method. And also, it must be an equal opportunity base for eligible students, but sometimes equal but not equal. And does not give any influence for college admissions, like a need blind policy. And also financial aid formula, you must understand, applied the financial aid formula applied by each school. And also each school has a different grade of financial aid award on average. You must understand it before you start writing an appeal. Prior planning is essential because income is considered as a prior year. So you have to start preparation for college financial aid at least 3 years prior to any financial aid application. And as I said, equal but not equal. You will realize it once you really face this type of situations. So this is important thing, just as a tip, a bonus for you. And if you go to college application education section, and you will see honors, and you have to input 5 different achievement records. Why is that? Because they are going to calculate all your input for their taxonomy system by selecting the college applications. That will make a huge differences for each student's the preference to register. This is an actual application site from Georgia Tech this year. And you can see that, they emphasize our advice for this portion of the application. Please do not overlook research, internship, family responsibilities, etc., as important contributions. So you must be socially impactful. This is kind of the appealing result, like with the same family, but prior planning before and after, this person's EFC has dropped down. The before EFC was 23,000, where after AFC was $8,000. So not only saved their own out-of-pocket money of that year, 15,000, and for the financial need amount has increased to 15,000, and this school is currently owing the 100% of the financial need amount, and 83% on average of the financial need amount is based on the free money. So not only saving their out-of-pocket money, 15,000, but also they received more grant, $12,450. So in reality, $27,450 was able to be saved because of the prior planning. So planning, the importance about the financial aid planning is very crucial for you. Yeah, this is my contact information. We have 5 locations in the nation, and I'm currently a CEO and also president of AGM Institute. If you look at the website agminstitute.org, and you will see a lot of information too. And also just send me an email or leave the message. When you have any questions, I'm more than happy to help you out. And so it is crucial for preparations and also planning in advance, especially when you look at financial aid. And also it is really, the second important thing is following up. And third importance is the evaluation about the financial aid amount you received. So there gotta be under-awarded situation or mis-awarded situations. And definitely when you try to start writing an appeal, gotta be a strategic manners, and especially of first appeal, second appeal, third appeal, you have to really prepare for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. That was a very informative webinar to understand financial aid and more. As I've shared before, if any of you have questions, please contact Richard and AGM Institute via remyung@agminstitute.org. Next, we have Wonjong Kim from Boston Education featuring secret admission strategies for top universities. As a friendly reminder, if you have any questions during his webinar, one of the representatives from Boston Education will be joining us in chat box, so you may leave your questions, and personnel from Boston Education will be answering your questions via chat box. Also, you may always either email or call Boston Education for more details. The contact information will be provided at the end of the webinar. With that being said, let's welcome Wonjong Kim.
네, 안녕하세요. My name is 김원종. 만나서 반갑습니다. I am a college counselor and a teacher at Boston Education. And before I start, I want to thank 중앙일보 for giving me the opportunity to give this talk. And so let's get started. Secret admission strategies for top universities is what I'm going to be talking about today. 탑 명문대마다 다른 각 대학별 합격 전략. My title hopefully is not a clickbait. I'm not here to provide or sell some foolproof way to get into an Ivy League school or Harvard. That would be witchcraft. Rather, I'm here to provide tips and strategies for your applications to maximize or increase your chance of getting into top school or schools you want. So that's what this talk is about. I think a lot of you are Korean, so I think this premise is pretty accurate that you want to get into top school. And your mom does too, and that's wonderful. That's great. Is there a problem? Is there a challenge? These are admission statistics of some of the top schools that you probably want to get into. This is 2021-2022 data. Sure, you have seen this before, so I'm going to make this quick. High number of applicants, lowest admission rates ever, and they're becoming even lower and lower every year. And when you consider legacy athletes, student athletes, your chances are actually lower. So that is the challenge. Now, what can you do to increase your chance? I'm going to suggest something interesting, that learning from MasterChef, which is a televised cooking show. It's quite well known. There are contestants prepare dishes and they're judged by these three chefs here. And I'm going to argue today that the college admission process is very similar to competing for MasterChef. Three judges here, Graham, Gordon Ramsay, and Joe, they're very picky individually, but they have types of cuisines and styles that they prefer. Top schools are also very selective. You've seen their admission rate. But they each have their set of preferences, and this is the underlying characters. It's the underlying rationale. It's the basis for everything that I'm going to be talking about today, that if you individualize your application, cater to set of preferences at each school, you can increase your chance, you can maximize your chance. To demonstrate this, I'm going to answer a simple question. Do males and females have different admission rate? 남자랑 여자 학생이랑 그 admission rate 차이가 있는지 across different universities. What do you think? Well, the admission rate is number of students accepted divided by total number applied. So let's take a look if different schools have different total number of applicants between males and females. Okay. If there's a difference in total number applied. And this is shown here, 2021-22 numbers across the board. There seems to be somewhat of a trend. So male in blue and female in red, that there are usually a few more female applicants, except for Caltech, where there are significantly more male applicants. And we knew that before. And Caltech is also known for more difficult admission rate for males and females. And that can be expected here because if they're more applied, the admission rate will probably go down because you're increasing the denominator. But if this is the case, what we would also expect is that in these other cases where there are more female applicants than males, females should have a lower admission rate, right? Well, we found the answer to be sometimes yes and sometimes no. Here our admission rate in this graph above 0% means that men have higher chance of getting in than women. So 이거는요, 그 위에 있는 건 남자들이 더 들어갈 확률이 높다는 거고, 그리고 negative means 마이너스는 여자 확률이 들어갈 확률이 더 높다는 거예요. So negative percent means the opposite, the women have better chance. And showing at the very right is Caltech. And as we expected, women have higher chance because there are more male applicants. And true to our prediction, 제가 예상했던 거랑 같이 Yale, Columbia, and Dartmouth, remember they had more female applicants, so they have higher chance, although that difference is slight for men. But what is surprising, 그래서 interesting한 거는 UCLA랑 UC Berkeley, where they had more 여자가 지원자가 더 많았는데도 불구하고 they had a higher admission rate for females. And this is opposite of what we expected. And although this difference is only shown as 5% right now, the actual difference in terms of number is 11.7%. This is for UC Berkeley for men and 17% for women. So if you standardize this, women are whoppingly 45% more likely than men to be admitted. That's surprising, right? But here's another question. Are women actually getting admitted more because UC Berkeley somehow prefers women? I mean, probably not, right? Rather, these data indicate that there are underlying characteristics that different colleges are looking for. 학교마다 prefer하는 그런 characteristic이 있고 그 차이점이 these results are represented in demographics shown here. So women are more likely in this case, for example, have that characteristic they prefer, and that's going to be what's making this difference. That's the prediction. So all of this to argue for a simple thing, which is different colleges have different taste, and this is exhibit number 1. Okay, our exhibit number 2 is a case study, and for the purpose of anonymity, the names of the individuals were changed. These are both Korean students. They went to same school, large public school. Aaron Kim was ranked number 1 in his class. GPA 4.8, SAT of 1550, great scores. Brian was ranked number 12, 4.4 GPA, 1580 SAT. It's a pretty similar AP profile. Aaron did tutoring and community service, as well as academic decathlon. Brian did research science competition and participated in debates. So here's what's interesting. Brian got into MIT. Well, amazing. But Aaron, despite his higher class rank and academic profile, was denied. So how can you explain this? It's really hard. We're going to first introduce you to the concept of common data sets. Some of you have seen this before. Common data sets are basically a survey that colleges provide. What's shown here is just one section of the really long common data sets titled Relative Importance of Common Academic and Non-Academic Admission Criteria. So basically, these data are self-reported by each school and indicate which factors shown here on the left, academic and non-academic factors, do they consider important, very important, or consider not considered. Each schools give out this survey. 학교마다 이런 survey를 통해서 이런 academic하고 non-academic한 category 부분을 어떤 게 중요하고 중요하지 않은지를 나타냅니다. 그리고 to interpret these data in a more mathematical way, what I decided to do was to rank them from very important 3 points, important 2 point, consider 1 point, and 0 point for not consider. And I compared this for the top schools. And I generated a file like this, Excel file like this, to compare across. You know, I told you, although all these schools are very selective, they have different taste. So through this kind of analysis, I wanted to get an idea, an insight on which schools prefer what. So 이런 analyze를 통해서 저희는 어떤 학교들이 어떤 요소를 더 중요하게 생각하는지를 알기 위해 analyze를 했습니다. In other words, what factors are each of these top universities look for when they admit students? And although there are differences, 학교마다 차이점이 있었지만, what we found was there is a general trend. 비슷한 점이 많아요. What top schools are looking for, and what they value in their incoming students. And some of these data are exactly as we expect. Things like rigor of classes. How difficult are the classes are you taking? Are you challenging yourself? That's number of AP, honor classes, especially related to your major, right? And your GPA, these are academic factors they found really important, roughly 10% each. And then there are other categories like extracurricular activity, talent, ability, character, and these are sort of all related, almost as important, if not more important than academic. 학교마다 이렇게 중요한 요소들이 있었고, 공통점은 이 academic한 부분, GPA나 학교에서 듣는 클래스들이 얼마나 어려운지, 얼마나 챌린징한지를 봤고, 또 하나는 extracurricular activity 통해서 학생이 얼마나 그 탤런트나 ability가 있는지도 중요하게 생각했습니다. 이게 공통점이었어요. These are the common aspects. And also, as we expect, things like racial status, state residency, religion, and interest in their school were not considered as important or not considered at all. And these are average, again, 20 schools. So through these kind of analysis, can we come up with an explanation for this Aaron and Brian result, right? So we start by comparing the preferences of MIT specifically for various criteria that might be represented here compared to average. 이거를 설명하기 위해서 저희는 그 MIT가 중요하게 생각하는 요소들을 그 평균이랑 비교를 해봤습니다. And this is the MIT versus average. We noticed some key differences here. First, the rigor of class and GPA and class rank. All of these academic factors were considered less important than average, although they're so significant. In contrast, slightly higher emphasis on standardized tests here. In fact, MIT is one of the few schools that still require SAT and ACT today. Significantly different here was an interview, an average about roughly 2% for an average school, compared to 8% in MIT's case is significant. And also standing out is a character, although 8 to 9% for average school compared to 12% at MIT. Now, it may not seem that different, but remember, you're dealing with really, really low admission rate, like 4% to 5%. And you're competing for a spot against the top applicants. So differences are generally quite small. So does this make sense then in the light of what we talked about? Does this result make sense? Brian, despite having lower academic performance and class rank, got into MIT. Well, MIT said that these academics are less important than average. He had 30 points higher than SAT score, which MIT emphasized the importance of. But, to be honest, this is not a proof at all. I don't think there is a reliable way to predict that Brian, in a parallel universe, will get into MIT over Aaron. But here is the point that I wanted to make. At least what we see here, this is a surprising result. What we see here is consistent with what's reported in the common data set. And to add some personal narrative here, having competed in debate, and Brian was better spoken, he carried himself with more confidence, and through interview and other means, likely contributed toward earning points in the character department and also interview department, which MIT said was considered more important than the average school. Okay, now, but for Aaron, not all was lost because there's Brian, Aaron, and Brian. Aaron got into Yale while Brian did not. And this result, can we try to use common data set to explain? Like before, we would have to look at what Yale prefers in their students. Comparing data between average and Yale, Yale하고 평균을 비교해 보면 Yale had class rank를 더 중요하게 생각했어요. 하지만 standardized tests like SAT는 덜 중요하다. That was what Yale said. And standardized test was where Aaron had slightly less score on. So our case study and common data set in these cases matched. But I do want to open my hand and state that this is not always true. It's not. Sometimes there are cases that are hard to explain, even with this kind of analysis. There's always a little bit of black box. But 평균적으로, more often than not, we observe that there are relationships enough for me to be confident that taking certain measures in preparation for specific schools can help tip the scale in your favor. 학생들이 보통 케이스 스터디를 통해서 어떤 대학에 들어갔는지 아니면 못 들어갔는지를 비교해 볼 때 그 학교랑 이 대학에서 중요하게 생각하는 요소랑 매치될 때가 많습니다. 그래서 이거를 통해서 저희는 preparation, 학생들을 그 학교에 원서 낼 때 준비를 할 수 있게 도와줄 수 있습니다. So what I showed you just now was a case study, but here's one more quick piece of data. These are SAT and ACT scores of top 25% and top 75% at MIT and Yale. As you know, these schools are both really, really competitive, roughly similar admission rate of 5%. And this is across all admits, right? So many students, there is a significant difference, although the difference is 10 to 30% for SAT and 1 to 2 points for ACT. We think this is fairly significant differences, and these are consistent with the common data set reported. Now, one more in this, I wanted to show you briefly these plots from Niche. Niche is a website where users like yourself go to create an account and you self-report whether you're accepted at a school or not, and you also report your SAT and GPA, etc. So there is some reliability issue. There's no way to verify each person is being honest, but there are also tens of thousands of data available. And so despite not every point will be 100% accurate, we didn't want to just ignore these data. I think there's too much information here, too much lesson to be extracted. So for the purpose of what we're trying to do here, each dot is a student who applied to MIT engineering. Green dots are students who said they were accepted. Red dots are students who said they were rejected. And SAT, ACT score is shown on the bottom, GPA is shown on the y-axis. And one can start to compare these kind of data with engineering at MIT versus engineering at Yale to see if the green dots in comparison to red, if there is a trend. If our common data sets is true, that they actually accept students they said they would accept, you'll say the green dots in MIT's case would have skewed toward more to the right because they find SAT more important, but a little bit less toward the middle for the GPA, whereas for Yale, you would expect them to be higher up and then a little bit to the left. And these are the kind of analysis that we can do to further gain, the sense of taste, sense of preferences that different universities have through a common data set. That not only does university say what they like, but do they actually accept what they say, right? And although I spent this time going over a case study involving MIT and Yale, these trends also exist for all other schools like UCLA, USC. They have in their own preferences and tastes in what they say they are looking for. 지금까지는 MIT랑 예일을 케이스 스터디를 통해서 봤지만 이런 커먼 데이터 세트 트렌드는 다른 학교들한테도 존재합니다. UCLA나 USC 같은 경우는 인터뷰를 보지 않고 클래스 랭크를 보지 않습니다. 특히 UCLA 같은 경우는 volunteer랑 work experience를 되게 중요시 생각합니다. Of note, UCLA consider volunteer and work experience, at least in our way of conducting our analysis, more significant compared to an average school which is in black, right? And for USC's case, what's noticeable here, well, recommendations seem to be more important for USC's case, but you can see the overall trend here. Also more important for the standardized test. And I want to say in these regards, our experience from observation of various students and their profiles and whether they get admitted at specific schools do match quite a bit, including some students getting, when they're rejected by UCLA and USC, but then accepted at Hopkins or Duke, and we lay their applications out to compare these categories of, the components they look for. The applications do make sense with their results that align with the common data sets. And sometimes the opposite, right? That some students get into UCLA and USC, but get rejected at Hopkins and Duke. And they also happen to be typically consistent with these analyses. Now, taken together, these data help us refine our models. We have a model in understanding admission process, how different schools do different things, and preferences of top schools. What I showed you is pretty simple analysis, but we can also build a model upon this and give us more information when we provide guidance and recommendation in students in their college application. I'm going to talk more about this. And we can also use these kind of common data sets to further get insights on things like, which schools find being first generation that's first to go to college more important. In community, these kind of questions come up frequently. 그 패밀리에서 가장 첫 번째로 간 학생, first generation이 얼마나 중요한지 학교마다 다른 거를 볼 수가 있고요. Here, think schools like Harvard, Pomona, and UMich were the top school that value being first generation. And frequently, students talk about, how much do they prepare for an interview? Well, the common data sets tell us that really depends on what schools you're doing the interview with. Top school that find the interview most important, Harvard, UPenn, and MIT, but other schools like UCLA, Brown, UC Berkeley, Caltech, these schools that don't look at interviews at all. Now, before I provide the summary so far, I want to quickly remind you back to this analogy, right, of various schools like being master chefs, each with distinct favorite and types of dishes they're partial to. Okay, now this is a summary. All in all, top schools want quality students, but will vary in what they value, right? And the types of things that they state in the common data set frequently do match the admission data. I use these three things to provide evidence and supporting data to make this point. But what else in terms of preferences of these colleges? Of course, they say these things in the common data set, but there's actually much more than that. So if common data set demonstrate what each school's value in terms of characters and quality of students and academics and extracurricular, so forth, what about other questions such as what major should you declare when you apply? The common data set을 통해서 학교들이 어떤 요소들이 중요한지를 설명했다면, 그러면 어떤 메이저로 어플라이하는 게 가장 좋은지는 어떻게 알 수 있을까요? Which major should you apply and which one will give you the most competitive advantage? And in this regard, the thing to consider is degrees conferred. Now, these are a short list of all the degrees that Yale conferred in the past few years. And degrees conferred are basically the degrees that students from Yale graduated with, and they do change year to year, but this is different from the degrees matriculated, that's for the incoming class. If we had that information, that would be even better, because then that would provide us information about actually how many students with biology degree or major that year were accepted into Yale. That would be best. Nevertheless, through this degrees conferred data, 학생들이 졸업한 이 데이터를 통해서 we can get an insight into what's going on in these schools. As you can see, for example, there's architecture Yale, there's some overall decline and then incline and decline again in the total number of students that they graduated. Why is this important? Actually, before I talk about why this is important, and then there are also majors that are more popular. The list actually doesn't end here at history, obviously. It keeps going for computer science, engineering, and arts and sciences. More popular major does not mean it's easier to get into. Like I said, computer science is an example. A lot of people apply, but it's also very competitive. To decide 어떤 major가 가장 좋은지 결정하기 위해서는 to decide which major is optimal, it requires more nuance, analysis, and discretion. 좀 더 자세한 analyze가 필요하고요. Why is this? 이게 이유는 each school has a capacity to accept students, which is a function of several different things. The size, the facility, for that major, number of professors and TA in each department, and so forth. So in the context of incoming students, this limitation about facility and TAs and these resources sometimes put a cap or a limitation, sometimes even require a quota. They need to accept specific number of students because they hire some more professors that more students than otherwise they will be inclined to. And these limitations and quotas are different for different school. Okay, and this is just a hypothetical example. So what major is the right major? You need to compare global versus relative trend, right? Global is the total number of students across universities that becoming more popular. For example, computer science would be on the incline. But then the relative or the local trend would give you assessment of what's going on in that school. And let's say, of course, you can't change your profile overnight, your extracurricular activities overnight. 물론 학생의 프로파일을 하루 만에 바꾸기는 불가능하지만, 그리고 그 학생이 한 액티비티를 바꿀 수는 없지만, 그 메이저를 어플라이 할 때 보통은 옵션이 있어요. 예를 들어서, if you're interested in biology and done some science research and competition, you can think about applying as bioengineering, biomedical sciences, neuroscience, general bio, or should you just do general biology, right? I don't have time to go into all these details, but important to consider is not just the total number of majors conferred, rather the trend. Right, trend at the school, specifically because these trends, for example, UCLA occur as a function, again, of these different limitations and different growth. For example, if a school adds a new building, that might require more students to fulfill that major. At the same time, that's going to detract, take away from number of students that can go into different majors, right? So with these kind of data, degrees conferred across different schools, global and relative trend, we can start to get insights per school which major makes most sense. Biomedical, bioengineering, neuroscience, that kind of thing. All right, just two more points. In addition to common data sets and capacity and trends of each school for various majors, and I'm going to make this next point quick. Number 2, each school provides different level of advantages for doing early decision and early action. And this can be inferred specifically from admission statistics, directly. So I won't go into this further, other than to say that it is an important consideration to make when applying, especially to most top schools have ED or single choice early action, which limits you to just one application early cycle, right? So you're often left to make a decision choice. And having knowledge about the types of advantages that you're conferred will make you with more informed choices. Now, lastly, a waitlist consideration. Waitlist is when they have reviewed your application and couldn't offer you acceptance at the time, so they put your application on hold. So now, not all students who are offered admission decide to go to the school, obviously. So in that case, school will actually have to take more students off waitlist to try to get more students in the incoming class. Shown here are the percent of admits off the waitlist for these schools listed. And they do vary quite a bit from year to year. Interestingly, in 2021, 프린스턴에서 2021년에는 surprisingly 13%의 학생들을 그 웨이리스트에서 그 인커밍 클래스로 받아줬어요. 이게 웨이리스트 넘버는 매년마다 많이 바뀌는 요소가 있습니다. On the left here are data published by Princetonian, which is a student newspaper. And again, year to year, there are number of students that accept can vary quite a bit, sometimes 0, right? And sometimes up to 12%, 16%, almost in contrast to steady and consistent decline in the overall acceptance rate. Kind of similar story, UCLA also, went through a drastic decrease in admission rate from 2020 of 19% and 2% in 2021. And while waitlist data come with a lot of variance, they do have an average trend across different schools. What does that mean to you? So in preparation for some of these waitlists, you should be working diligently to update your application. Sometimes percent off waitlist can get as high as 30%, is also knowing that it's unpredictable. And when you do get waitlisted, especially in multiple schools, we can use these average data to help you make more informed decisions. Right? Which school should you prioritize? Not only that, but also ways to optimize your overall update process, in consideration of, remember the common data set that I showed you, what activity should you prepare for after December and January, which is when you actually submit your application, what activity should you be doing in the meantime while potentially getting waitlisted, right, to update your application. I'm going to end here by summarizing. Different schools are different. What? Different schools are different? Obviously, yes. But all too common, there are not enough analysis done in comparing these differences. Everybody submit the same common app, other than the supplemental essays that each different schools require. But knowing these differences, what can you do? Right? I'm going to talk in the next slide, right? So today I have shown you some examples, but also presented you with various methodologies that you can use to further analyze and compare qualities and traits that each schools prefer. I did not show you direct data for the second one, but at the minimum, I argue that taking number of degrees conferred can be used as proxy to assess, the trend, capacity for specific majors, and that you should use to determine, to pinpoint what major you're going to be applying as. And the waitlist numbers are different, admission processes are different, interview requirements are different. So using this, you have to also make decisions on how to prepare this college application process. Now, despite what I have presented to you today, there are certain things you should not change, because while there are preferences of different schools, they largely have common feature that they value. I've shown you that in the beginning, right? And that's someone who's passionate about what they are interested in. They look for that in all their applicants. And while how much they value these qualities may vary, they still want a strong student doing well in academics and also balance that with character and leadership personality. 그러니까 저희가 오늘 보여준 거는 물론 학교마다 차이점이 있지만 거기서 중요시 생각하는 요소. 하지만 가장 중요한 것은 학생이 패션이 있고 자기가 하고자 하는 거를 strong academic이랑 extracurricular를 통해서 보여주는 거고요. 하지만 what you can change, 이거를 통해서 배울 수 있는 건 뭐냐? 학교마다 원하는 게 다르기 때문에 we can change the application process, cater to each specific school. We can choose a right major given your profile. Environmental science or chemistry, biology or neuroscience. Of course, you can't change the core that is your major dish, but you can change the garnishes. And that will change who you're competing against in the pool. And that's going to change your competitiveness of getting into school. Waitlist planning and which topics to choose for essay, that's also important. And how to approach these components are all things that you can consider in making the optimal decision to try to tip the scale, admission scale in your favor. And with this, I want to thank you for listening. I hope that I provided some interesting things to think about. And although I may have seemed to focus on very specific schools, I do want to emphasize that these differences are exist for all schools. I also provided a lot of information today, and I didn't have time to show you some other details. So if there are any questions about some of our slides, please do not hesitate to contact us by either phone or email. And thank you again for listening, and I hope to talk to you soon. 네, 감사합니다. 네, 다음에 뵙겠습니다.
Thank you so much, Wonjong Kim, for your wonderful webinar to discover the secrets of admission strategies for prestigious schools. If you have further questions, you may contact Boston Education at boston.ed.inst@gmail.com. We are already approaching our last webinar of today's content series. We have Richard Vincent Kim from Admission Masters featuring extracurricular activities, best activities for college admissions. Please note that one of representatives from Admission Masters will be hopping into our live chat box during the webinar. So if you have any questions while the webinar is ongoing, please submit your questions via chat box and Admission Masters will answer your questions right away. Now let's jump right into the session.
Hey everyone, my name is Richard Vincent Kim, and I'm one of the senior counselors here at Admission Masters. And today I'm going to talk with you guys about a big part of your college application process, which are your extracurricular activities. So let me go ahead and just share my screen with you here, and let's get started. All right, so you guys are all probably already aware of the fact that extracurriculars are a significant piece of your college applications. And so today I want to just talk with you guys a little bit about what you should be doing, hopefully, to build upon your resume, to try and get involved in some activities that will make your resume, make your college applications shine. Before I get into that, let me just tell you guys a little bit about us at Admission Masters. We've been named the #1 educational consulting organization by a number of newspaper organizations. Our employees, our counselors, are former admissions officers from universities across the nation. We have people who have served as application readers, people who have been in the trenches, in admissions offices, and hopefully we can give you guys a little bit of insight as to how the process works and give you guys some tips as to what you should be doing from even middle school and beyond to try to make your applications as strong as possible by the time that you are applying for colleges. We are a leader in boarding school and college admissions. We have a very high success rate at getting students not only into great boarding schools, but of course, also some of the most prestigious colleges in the nation. And we have a very team-based approach. So when you guys are applying for colleges down the line, you're going to know, or you should know, that admissions offices are made up of people from all different backgrounds. And we try to replicate that in the team-based approach that we have here at AM. So we have people who are published authors, people, of course, who have worked as admissions officers and application readers. We have people who have been, who have run businesses, who have been scientific researchers, for example. And we believe that having all of these different backgrounds helps to build a more holistic process for our students. And so you you get kind of a more a similar approach to how the actual admissions process will be by the time you're actually applying for colleges. And then finally here, we do have a very personalized program for the way that we try to help our students. Every student is unique. You all have different interests, talents, strengths, weaknesses. The way you approach things academically, extracurricularly will have to be kind of specific to you. And so the way that we help our students is by developing an individualized approach that we feel is best and kind of catered towards the students that we're working with. A little bit of background on me. So I earned my bachelor's degree from UCLA in political science and education studies. I went to the University of Pennsylvania for my master's degree in higher education administration. While I was at Penn, I had a few different hats. So I was a graduate assistant for the Penn Law Admissions and Financial Aid Office. I was an application reader for Yale, and I was also the program coordinator for a program that I'm confident you guys have probably never heard of before, but it's called the Carey JD MBA program between the Wharton School of Business and the Penn Law School. So I was in and out of the Penn Law School admissions office, the Wharton admissions office. I was reading applications for Yale, and honestly, there were a lot of similarities in terms of how we approached our students and evaluated our students, especially for these very selective colleges. And so once again, today, I'm going to kind of lend my experience to you, show you what we're looking for specifically in regards to extracurricular activities to hopefully help your applications stand out as much as possible. All right. Why are activities important? So I'm assuming you guys probably already know that activities are a big part of your college applications. In fact, when I was reading applications for Yale, for example, we evaluated your applications in 5 different areas. We take a look at your academics first. So that would be your GPA, your test scores, the rigor of your high school curriculum. And then we look, secondly, at your activities. And we rate you on a scale of 1 to 5, a 5 being exceptional and a 1 being substandard. And so through your activities, we try to learn a lot about you. We can learn a lot about you as a person, what you care about. And I kind of want to just point out a few things that, again, as admissions officers, we can learn about from you just by looking at the activities that you've been involved in. So number 1, we can get a sense of how much you've grown and how much you've learned from the experiences that you've had. Colleges don't want to just accept those students who are very book smart, who are getting straight A's and have amazing test scores. These very selective colleges that you're going to be applying to, that I'm assuming you'll be applying to down the line, they want to see that you are taking advantage of the opportunities available to you inside and outside of school to develop yourself. They want to see that you are not just, again, staying in your little niche in school and just studying, but that you are constantly seeking to find ways to spend your time effectively. And your activities do a great job of demonstrating to us that you are the type of person who is maturing and that you are finding ways to, again, be engaged in what is offered to you outside of academics alone. Number 2, your activities are really important because they demonstrate to us how you use your time. And if you are only using your time, again, reading books and getting straight A's in your classes, which is important, right? I don't want to downplay that at all. But if that's the only thing you're doing, honestly, that's probably not the type of student that colleges are really going to want to see in their own campuses. They want to see, are you able to balance your time effectively, not just with your academics, but also supplementing that with perhaps sports or music or other activities that we'll talk about in a few moments. But this demonstrates to us the ways in which you use your time. And the most mature students, the types of students that colleges are going to want to accept, will be those who are really good at balancing their time effectively. Number 3, the experiences that you get involved in activity-wise also help us get a sense of how prepared you are for the college experience. So this is an opportunity for you to focus on things outside of just your classroom as you prepare for college. Again, we as admissions officers, we want students who we think will be very engaged in college, the people who will come to our campus, get involved with the student body, who are very enthusiastic about meeting new people. And we can see that if you've done it in high school. Again, if you are involved in a few different activities, if you're a leader, if you've made an impact on your community, All things that we'll talk about in a few moments too, by the way. But when you're doing these things in high school, we get a sense of how you would be approaching your college life. And by doing these things, by getting involved in your activities extensively throughout your high school career, we get a sense of how you're going to be approaching your college career. And so it prepares you for the college experience, and we can see how prepared you are by looking at the activities that you've been involved in. And that includes things like the types of activities you've been involved in, the extent to which you've been involved in those activities. So if you've had leadership positions, for instance, this also includes things like how long you've been committed to those activities. Did you only do it for a year and then quit, and then join a new activity and then quit the next year? Or were you at least devoted to a few select activities for all 4 years, or hopefully at least 3 years? All of these kind of pieces of information we can glean from your applications, and we want to, hopefully again, accept those students who have demonstrated that preparation as much as possible. And then finally, we also get a sense of your passions, the depth of your passions. You'll probably hear this a lot if you ever go to a college, virtual information session or a college tour. A lot of schools, a lot of admissions officers stress that they want students who are passionate. And one of the ways we can see your passions is through your activities. In fact, this is probably one of the main ways that we can see your passions. Let's say you're a biology major, but outside of taking AP biology and maybe, taking a bio class in community college, if you haven't really been involved in biology, then to be quite honest, it makes it hard for us as admissions officers to see whether you're genuinely interested in this field. Because you'll be competing against students who are also bio majors, who are not just very strong in bio, but also have been involved in activities like the USA Biology Olympiad, or people who have been in the medical club, for instance, or people who have attended summer programs like Summer Science Program, for example. There's so many ways that students can get involved in activities, even if there's not a lot of clubs offered to you at your school. I know that there are some high schools that don't really offer as many opportunities. Some schools even limit you in terms of how many clubs you can join. But that shouldn't stop you, because there are so many other things you can do outside of high school, so many things you can do over your summers as well to try and demonstrate the passion you possess for the major that you're applying as. So for all of these reasons, your activities, again, are a crucial part of your applications, and something that really you should be developing and cultivating as early as potentially middle school. And we'll talk about that too in a few moments. So there's 4 things to consider when we're taking a look at which activities you should be getting involved in. So the first thing here is going to be your major choice. When you are young, when you are in 8th grade or 9th grade, I'm sure you probably don't really know what you want to do just yet. And that's perfectly normal. The expectation is not that you are, going to know what you're going to do with the rest of your life 20 years from now. That's not the expectation. In fact, you should keep in mind, as admissions officers, we know that when you come to our college, you're still trying to figure out what it is you enjoy. And they actually, in most cases, make it purposefully easy, relatively easy for you to change your major in college, because they know that by the time you come to college, you're still a kid. You're still figuring out what it is you really enjoy. And so just so we're all kind of clear here, the expectation is absolutely not that you're picking a major that you're going to be pursuing for sure in college and, what your career is going to be. That's not necessarily the expectation. What we want to know is that you've at least thought about it, that you have a vision of what you might want to pursue, and that you've pursued it by getting involved in activities that are related to your major or your possible career choice down the line. And so the first thing that you always want to think about, that I always recommend for my students, is whatever prospective major you're interested in, whether that is political science or biology or computer science, we want to see that you are involved in activities that are particularly related to those fields. And we'll talk about some examples of that in a few slides. The other thing that I want to see that you should be thinking about when considering which activities to be involved in are the time that you have to spend in your activities, but also your talents and where your strengths lie. I have so many students who come to me maybe like sophomore, junior year for the first time, and I look at their resume and I notice that they have a few activities, like, for example, marching band, or they play a sport. And they ask me, should I be doing this for all 4 years? I heard it looks really good for colleges if I do these activities for all 4 years. And that could be true, right? If you are involved in band for 4 years, that can demonstrate a level of dedication that colleges perhaps may want to see. At the same time, however, activities like band and sports, for example, tend to be very time consuming. And these are one of the main reasons why I feel like some students tend to not have the best grades, because they're spending so much time in these activities thinking like this must boost my application a lot, when in reality, these are such common activities that it might not be the best use of your time. And I'm not saying at all that you should not be doing band or sports, right? That's not true. These can be great ways for you to exercise your creativity, to relieve some stress. So if you want to play sports, if you really enjoy it, if you really love band, please do so. What I'm saying is don't feel obligated to continue with these things because you feel like I need to do it for colleges. If it's taking up too much of your time, especially if you're not at the highest level, if you're playing JV tennis for 4 years, or if you're in orchestra for 4 years, but you're not first chair, you're not the principal cellist, for example, then to me, it becomes a matter of, could we spend that time elsewhere? And all those times that you're spent going to practices, going to competitions, doing all of this prep for your particular activity, when really it's not going to make that big of an impact on your colleges, maybe it's a time to reprioritize, to figure out how can I use this time more effectively, play to other strengths that I might have. Maybe you're a great public speaker. Maybe we should look into activities like speech and debate, for instance. Maybe you're someone who's really logical and meticulous. Maybe research would be a great opportunity for you. But it becomes a matter of figuring out, where do my talents lie, also in conjunction with the major that I want to pursue, and how can I better spend this time more efficiently so that I can make a bigger impact on my college applications, and hopefully not, hurt your grades in the process. So your time that you have is very precious. We want to make sure we're using that effectively. And we want to figure out, again, where are my strengths? Where are my skills best used so that we can have the greatest impression on admissions officers down the line. The third thing, your uniqueness. Now, you're going to want to find activities that help you to stand out to admissions. Again, I don't think there's such a thing as a bad activity, and I hope you don't take that away from this presentation here. But there are common activities. There are activities like, for instance, Key Club, where you just kind of do volunteering, various volunteer activities. One day you might be writing cards to veterans. Another day you might be going to the homeless shelter to feed the homeless, for instance. Another day you might be doing a beautification project or cleaning up the beach. These activities, again, are not bad. I'm not saying don't do these activities, don't help the homeless, don't go clean up the beach. Please do these things, right? These are important activities, and you can give back into your community in ways that can be great. The problem ends up becoming, if you feel like, well, I'm doing this service because I need to, and I hope that these things will help me make me seem unique to the admissions officers, because I'll be honest with you, they won't. So many people do those activities. So many people are in NHS and Key Club and Interact and Red Cross Club. These activities are, again, not bad. Feel free to be a part of them. But what you need to ask yourself is this enough? Because if you're aiming for very selective colleges, most prestigious schools, that's not going to cut it. And what you should try to ask yourself is, is there a way for me to take my interests? Maybe, for instance, you did have, a few volunteer experiences where you were helping feed the homeless, and you liked it. You really enjoyed that process. You loved being able to, to help these individuals through volunteering on the weekends. But is there a way for you to now take this to the next level? Can you make a greater impact than what you had done before? And this leads me to my next point. The impact you have on your community is so important. You guys have probably heard of hooks. A hook is something that really makes you stand out in comparison to your peers. This could be something like if you're a national debate champion, or if you were a finalist for USABO, or if you were a state-ranked swimmer. These hooks are rare. That's why they're hooks, because the vast majority of people do not possess them. If you have a hook, great. Play off of that. But for everyone else who does not have a hook like that, the impact you make is so important. So when you're looking at activities that you've been involved in, again, if you're just doing the basic things, like again, every other Sunday going to a homeless shelter and helping feed the homeless, you're going to want to see, is there a way for me to take that to the next level, right? Maybe, for instance, you could create an organization where you're helping to meet with homeless individuals one-on-one, helping them to build a resume, helping them to find clothes at Goodwill that will allow them to interview for jobs, finding opportunities for them to climb out of homelessness. Maybe that would be a way for you to make a greater impact, for example, right? That would be just one example of how you can do this. There are so many creative approaches that you can take to try to make this impact on your community based on all of those things I just mentioned: your major choice, time and talents, finding something that's unique to you, and then ultimately funneling this into some type of activity that can really make an impact in a way that most people would not be making. So all of these things you really want to consider as you're deciding, how am I going to be shaping my activities to really stand out as much as possible? So let me give you a little bit of an idea of how you can plan out your activities. Hopefully, if you're younger, this is great for you because you can start figuring out, what way can you, or how can you be approaching each year to try to make each year count as much as possible. But if you're coming in a little later, if you're a sophomore or junior, that doesn't mean it's too late. We're just going to want you to, try and take advantage of all of these things now. So if you're starting as early as 8th grade, if you're in middle school, the first thing that I usually recommend for you is just learn about what is out there, right? I'm sure, when I remember when I was in middle school, I didn't know much of what even existed, right? I knew there were lawyers, I knew there were doctors, but other than that, there was a very, a limited understanding of what exactly was even possible for me, what kind of majors there were, what kind of career options there were. So if you're coming into high school, if you're just starting high school, or you're younger than that, my first recommendation is just find your major, find and explore different things that exist. Just discover your interests. And there's so many ways you can do that. There are tools like College Board's Big Future, where you can learn about so many different major choices that are available. There are YouTube videos where you can learn about different majors that exist that you may have never heard of before. And, there are even personality assessments. Like for us at Admission Masters, we do something called the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs Type Inventory. And we use this to try and learn about our students. And based on our students' unique profiles, there's a list of careers that could be a good fit for them. And this could introduce you to a variety of different subjects that, again, you may never have been exposed to before. So if you're coming in very early, if you're in 8th grade or younger, now is the time to just start learning as much as you can about what is out there. Then once you get into high school, once you're a freshman, the goal is to experiment. The goal is to join clubs that interest you and to figure out, again, what it actually means to be involved in these activities. What is speech and debate, right? What does that even entail? What is HOSA? What is Kiva? What are these types of activities? What does it mean to be investing? Or what does it mean to be doing scientific research? Like, what does that actually mean? And this is a way for you to discover what you actually enjoy. And also, maybe just as important, what you don't enjoy or what you're not as good at. So when you're coming into high school in 9th grade, the best thing that I can recommend for you is just try different things. Every high school, or most high schools, will have something called a club rush. This is when every school, all the clubs will create booths, and you walk around from booth to booth and you learn about the different clubs, what they do, and you put in your email and you attend meetings from there. And this is, again, what you need to be doing. So as at freshman year, the goal should be just join a few different clubs, right? Just join anything and everything that interests you. Find a core few activities that you really enjoy and stick with it. As you move into your sophomore year, you're going to want to cater to your interests. So now that you've joined a few different activities, maybe you joined the drama club, and you also joined the engineering club and the robotics club and the FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, and you realize, well, you know what? I'm not a huge fan of drama. Like I thought it would be more interesting than it is. So you drop out of it. That's totally fine. The expectation is not that you stay in all of these clubs for all 4 years, right? I know, again, I mentioned earlier, commitment matters, dedication matters, but colleges don't need to see you being involved in 20 activities for all 4 years, right? Stay in those activities that most interest you and drop the activities that are either too time consuming, like there's no way I can balance my grades with this, so I'm going to drop out of this particular activity, or just activities that no longer interest you, that are not related to the major that you think you might want to pursue at this point. Get rid of those activities. In fact, even in sophomore year, even as late as junior year, you can join new activities. Don't feel limited to, stay in those few activities that you joined early in your high school career. You're just going to want to stay in a core few that really highlight where your interests are. Then by the time you become a junior, we want to go more in depth. So this is where you're going to strive for leadership roles. This is where you're going to apply for leadership positions like president, secretary, vice president, treasurer. Those leadership positions are so important, and you really need to demonstrate leadership by getting involved. Obviously, if you can get these positions earlier, that's even better, right? If you can be the president of a club as early as sophomore year, that would be great. But by junior year, I'm hoping that you have at least anywhere between maybe 2 to 4 leadership positions. This is also where you maybe should be making a community impact, right? Now that you've been involved in a few activities, you've discovered what you've enjoyed. What are you doing now to try to make an impact on the world that you live in the community that you are in? And this is also where you can maybe find some competitions that make use of your talents. In fact, again, that process can start a little bit earlier, but if you're still kind of figuring out what you want to do in freshman, sophomore year, then in junior year, you should try finding competitions that are catered towards what you are most interested in or where your talents are. And we'll talk about some of those talents in a few moments as well. But this would be an example of an activity plan, something that I would say would be a perfect approach to how you should be building your activities as you move through your high school career. Okay, so what is this checklist for activity planning? What are the things that we want to make sure we're doing when we're building our resume? The first thing is, I need you to balance your academics. And, that's not the focus. Your academics is not the focus of this presentation here that I'm giving you. But I do need you to consider the fact that when I was reading applications at Yale, when I was reading applications for Penn and for the Penn admissions office or Penn Law Wharton, there were always 3 things that I looked at first when I was determining how strong of a candidate you were academically. The very first thing I look at is your GPA. Your GPA demonstrates to us how strong you are more academically, more than anything else, more than even your test scores. But number 2, your test scores do matter, right? So your SAT, ACT score, your AP scores, these demonstrate to us how strong you are in your academics on a national standardized scale. And then number 3, I look at the rigor of your courses. I get a sense of how, if you got straight A's, but you took all of the easiest classes, that doesn't really do much for me. But if you are taking all of the hardest classes in school, and you're pushing yourself to do even more by going to community college courses, doing community college courses in the summer over winter break, for example, and you're getting a 4.0 GPA, well, then all of a sudden you're putting yourself in a position where you are, going to be a good candidate for these very selective colleges. So balancing your academics is so important. I know I mentioned, again, your activities are a crucial part of your applications, but if you are, the leader of all these clubs, you're involved in so many things, but your grades are B's and C's, honestly, that's not smart. You need to ask yourself, again, can I balance everything that I'm doing with my academics too? If you are not able to balance that effectively, honestly, that shows a lack of maturity to colleges. Next thing that colleges are going to want to see are your volunteer experiences. So when you are looking at your activities, ask yourself, am I doing enough, not just in what I'm interested in, but in demonstrating how I'm trying to make an impact in the community that I'm involved in? And so you want to look into activities, again, that might start out with common activities like Key Club or Interact, for instance, but hopefully building upon those things to try to make a larger impact on your community beyond what most other people would be doing. Then you want to look into competitions that play to your strengths. So we'll talk about a few in a few moments here. But if you are able to, if you're someone who's really great at coding, then maybe you can join, you can try out competitions like USACO, the USA Coding Olympiad. If you are someone who's really good at, again, public speaking, look into activities or competitions through MUN or speech and debate, for instance. But you want to play to your strengths and try things that you feel like would be great opportunities for you to earn some awards. The next thing will be joining activities, again, that are major reflective, right? Just make sure, and not every activity needs to be related to your major, but make sure that a core few are demonstrating the ways in which you've tried to learn about the major that you're interested in. And then finally, this is something that I feel like not a lot of people really think about, but your activities can also be doing things for your home, especially during COVID. Like if you need to take on a job to help pay the bills for your family, or if your parents are working late, for instance, and you need to help take care of your siblings, these are all activities that also count towards your applications. And you can talk about these things when you start applying for colleges too. So these are all just kind of a checklist of things you should think about when you're looking into your activities, but you want to make sure that you're diversifying in these ways so that you're not just, really focused on one particular activity or just really good at any one of these things, but really balancing all five by the time you're applying for college. So what are some examples of types of activities you can get involved in? Well, first of all, there are academic related activities that I think are great because they also naturally give you opportunities for awards. So I don't know if you guys know this, but by the time you're applying for colleges, for some schools like the Common Application, they will give you 5 slots to put in academic awards. That does not include things like art awards or volunteer awards. They have to be academic. So by naturally getting involved in activities like speech and debate, or Model United Nations, or Science Bowl, Science Olympiad, Ethics Bowl. I mentioned earlier the USACO, the USA Coding Olympiad. All of these activities give you opportunities for you to possibly earn awards to put onto your applications down the line. And they can demonstrate a passion for your major. So if you're a philosophy major, Ethics Bowl would be great. If you are any kind of, social science, humanities major, something like sociology or poli-sci, speech and debate, mock trial, these types of activities are also great for your applications too. And so you want to look into joining maybe a few of these academic related activities. Having said that, I should point out here. So I was the captain of my speech and debate team in high school, and I was someone who, I spent a lot of time preparing for my debates, and it really almost was like a sport in the sense that you have to do a lot of preparation beforehand. So when you're looking into activities like this, you still need to ask yourself, am I able to balance this with the rest of my academics? Am I able to balance this with everything that I'm doing? Because if you can't, and you're just in speech and debate, but you don't have the time to prepare, you don't have the time to, really win competitions, then it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Is this a good way for you to prioritize the things that you're doing? Here are some other types of activities, just broad strokes activities that you can look into depending on the type of field that you're interested in. So if you're an engineering, comp sci student, some great clubs you can look into would be the Robotics Club or the Engineering Society, Girls Who Code, Physics Club, STEM Club. If you're someone who's interested in business, there's so many business clubs usually in most schools. There's the Future Business Leaders of America, there's DECA, Kiva, Economics Club, entrepreneurship clubs, investment clubs. For people who are interested in political science, speech and debate, mock trial, current events club, media club, Liberty North Korea, Amnesty International. And then if you're a psychology or a health major, there are activities like HOSA, Future Medical Professionals of America, Biomedical Club, Mental Health Awareness Club. These are the types of major reflective activities that you want to look into depending on the field that you're pursuing as your major. Once again, don't feel obligated to join all of these. You're not trying to, it's not a matter of quantity. It's more a matter of quality, right? Getting involved in maybe a few of these things, getting leadership positions and making an impact ultimately through the activities that you get involved in. So what do I mean by community impact? And I've said this already a few times. I gave you that example of the, like if you were, passionate about helping the homeless and you were to create an organization to help them build resumes, etc. That would be one great way. But let me give you 4 other examples of what our students have done in the past that can demonstrate the type of impact that colleges are really excited to see their students making. For example, for one of my students who was interested in engineering and computer science, she created a website and an Android application called FemPals. And this allowed homeless teens to get free feminine hygiene products. I had another student who created an organization called Stella and Luna. It was a nonprofit organization where she created handmade jewelry, and she donated the proceeds from selling that jewelry to domestic violence shelters. She even took that a step further, and she actually worked directly with the women at these domestic violence shelters to teach them how to make jewelry, for example. And for political science, there was a student who created a website and a social media platform called Women in History. And she highlighted female leaders throughout history through this website that she created, to the extent where she was able to introduce this to her principal, and she was able to create her school's first student-led class titled Women in History, which is amazing. Like, how many people do you know who created a course and taught that course in high school? And then we had one more student. I had a pre-dental student. She was accepted to the Penn Accelerated Dental Program. And one of the things that really demonstrated a lot of initiative was she created a workshop where she taught elementary school students at Boys and Girls Clubs oral hygiene. So she taught them how to brush their teeth and wash their hands. She created a fun hand sanitizer creating activity, and she taught her kids how to make hand sanitizer. And these types of activities, all 4 of these types of examples, are all great instances of uniqueness, of community impact, and of initiative, doing something that isn't required of you, right? When you think about like what you should be doing in high school, most people just do the basic things. They get involved in a few clubs, they, work hard in their classes, they take their standardized tests, and, for the most part, that's really all they're expected to do. This is not expected of students, which is why when students go above and beyond to do something of this caliber, it really does make an impact on the admissions offices, because it's something that they will not see often. Okay, so the last 2 slides here that I want to talk about with you guys are just going to be an activity plan, and then I want to talk about a case study about how one of my students approached their activity development that I think is a great progression that colleges would love to see. But we'll start with just kind of a broader activity plan. So let's say that you are interested in computer science. If you're a computer science major, the first thing is, if you're a freshman, all you need to do is just try expanding your interests. So I've talked about this with you guys already, but the goal should be to join some clubs that are related to your field and see if truly you are passionate about this. So you would join some computer science related clubs, whatever is offered at your school. Maybe then you're going to start digging a little bit deeper. Computer science is a vast field. There's so many subfields within computer science. There's so many careers that you could possibly choose down the line if this were the field you were to pursue. So learn more about those options, right? Maybe, for example, you want to go into data science or machine learning and artificial intelligence, but dig deeper into what the possibilities are within computer science so that perhaps you can find a niche that you can relate to that makes you different from other students later on that are also pursuing computer science. Because a lot of Asian students especially will be doing computer science as their majors. So if you don't have kind of your own approach to how you're doing it, or your own particular interest within comp sci, it can make it more difficult for you to try and stand out. And then maybe you also try a comp sci class, right? There's AP Computer Science Principles, AP Computer Science A. Maybe you do a 1-week workshop, for example, over the summer, possibly, to learn more about different coding languages. But freshman year is, again, a great time for you to just start with the introductory levels, figuring out what it even means to be doing computer science. By the time you move into 10th grade, so I mentioned USACO already, there's the USA Coding Olympiad, which starts in December, and it goes all the way from bronze, which is the lowest level, to the platinum level. And if you're able to practice a bit and you're able to climb in those ranks, right, that could be a great award for you to put on your college application. So this could be a time, sophomore year could be a time for you to start putting your interests into action, finding ways for you to apply your talents and perhaps earn some awards in the process. Maybe you can also start a community impact project based on your specific computer science interests. I had a student who did computer science, who taught free classes to low-income middle school students to teach them how to code. And these can be a good entry-level way for you to try doing something, again, that goes beyond what most other people would be doing who are pursuing computer science. And then maybe you can try some bigger 2-week programs, like, for example, the Upper Line Code or Hack Reactor or Imagination. Start finding ways for you to, again, continue expanding upon your knowledge of computer science, so that we can try getting into this next level. By junior year, there's going to be a lot of other opportunities. So there are some really prestigious internships, summer programs, research opportunities that you can be looking into by the time you reach your junior year. For example, there's MIT Research Science Institute, an exceptionally difficult research experience for students, difficult program to get accepted into. There are programs like SSP, for example. There are so many different opportunities, especially for rising seniors, that I would strongly recommend a computer science student get involved in, because these can be a great way for you to now advance your knowledge to the next level. Maybe now you're moving beyond that small kind of community project and expanding upon that project by creating your own nonprofit organization to try and make a bigger impact, to expand the reach of what you had done in your sophomore year. This is also where you're going to start constructing a narrative. Okay, so now I'm passionate about computer science. How am I going to write that in my college essays? How am I going to shape this and construct that narrative about who I am and what I care about in my applications? This is where you start kind of piecing everything together like a puzzle, so that you can try to make sense of everything that you've done for admissions down the line. And then lastly, there's going to be other competitions. Maybe you can try USACO again. There are competitions like the Cal Poly programming competition. There's Google Code Jam, for example. There's so many actually computer science related competitions and ways for you to show off your skills in programming and differentiate yourself from everyone else who's also doing computer science. So this would be kind of more of, again, a broad strokes plan for how you can be approaching your activities. And then the last thing here is going to be just a case study. So I had a student who was accepted to Columbia, and she was very interested in politics. In her freshman year, when we first met with her, we already knew that she had a passion for public speaking and wanted to do something with that. So it kind of started small. She didn't have too much of a plan to start off with, but this is kind of a case study of exactly what she did on a year-by-year basis. And you'll kind of see how she was able to turn a fledgling interest into something that was a lot more impactful. So in freshman year, again, we talked, we learned about her interests. She was someone who loved public speaking. She had tried speech and debate when she was in middle school. So in 9th grade, she joined her school's mock trial. She joined Model United Nations, and she, of course, joined the speech and debate team. She attended a debate summer camp and an MUN summer program over the summer, and she explored the Junior State of America, which is a civic engagement activity where you get involved in politics at a very early age. And so these were all just kind of a taste of things that she could do within her fields, more introductory, more just exploring what is out there, what can I do with this kind of innate interest that I have, and what are some options for how I can pursue this into something more meaningful. By sophomore year, she took it to the next level. So she joined the Penn Law Pre-College Academy, which I believe is a 1-week program where she learned about the law, an introduction to the law. She volunteered at the district office as a clerk, and she did campaign support. And she also created a social justice project. She went to a local middle school, and she taught them, she partnered with that middle school to teach the kids there about environmental justice. And she taught them not only about the problems that are existing, but she also did this activity where she taught these kids how to write a letter to their congressman. And she actually helped them to write these letters and send them to their local representative. Then by her junior year, she attended the Notre Dame Student Leaders Program, which is a very competitive summer program. She did some research at the UCI Political Science Department. She worked at the District of Education office, and she was actually able to turn that social justice project she did in her sophomore year into an actual presentation that she gave to a congressman in Sacramento, which is crazy. Like, again, how many people have those opportunities or take it upon themselves to do something along those lines? You can see as each year progresses from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year, she's not just, figuring out what she enjoys, but she's also finding, how can I do more to learn about my field of interest and to make the level of impact that's expected of me by the time that I'm applying for colleges. So this would be, again, a great example of how I would want a student to try and build upon their experience by the time that they apply for colleges. All right, so thank you so much for listening to my presentation. If you guys have any questions, I know this was a pre-recorded presentation, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact us at the phone number listed here below, 855-466-2783. You can also take a snapshot of that QR code there. So if you want to learn more about our services, if you want to visit our YouTube channel, check out our podcast, if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, or if you just want to have a free consultation and meet with one of our counselors, feel free to visit us at that QR code. Otherwise, again, thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I wish you all the best throughout your college admissions journey.
Thank you, Richard, for sharing your insights on having successful extracurricular activities for college admissions. If any of you still have more questions, you may directly contact admission masters. You may rewind this content series after being uploaded to our 미주중앙일보 YouTube channel to find out admission masters' QR codes. 3 webinars for content series just ended. Now let's move on to the topic that students and parents are eager to participate, which is YouTube comment sweepstakes. This premiered webinar will be uploaded via 미주중앙일보 YouTube channel after the entire program is over. And for those of you who watch the clips, hit like buttons and leave the comments by the following Thursday, which is November 23rd, 1 p.m. Pacific time. We will randomly pick the comments and we'll select 30 winners to give Amazon gift cards. Please refer to this current page for the sweepstake rules. And this time, I would like to introduce Korea Daily's cultural communication channel. Well, it's CCC, called Catch Up Official. Make sure it is K, not C, and KoreaDailyUS.com. To be able to bring fun and joy in the midst of getting rid of language barriers with our Korean American Next Gen, the Korea Daily oversees various platforms like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and has its own English news website, while our YouTube and Instagram focuses on entertaining topics like K-pop and K-food. Our news websites and TikTok delivers Korean American news right in front of you. So you better check it out and make sure to hit follow. That was for today's program. Thank you so much for watching the program, and we hope you enjoyed 3 content series webinars. Don't forget to participate sweepstakes by next week, which is November 23rd, 1 p.m. Pacific time. Then have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I'll see you all for next year because Korea Daily College Fair will come back in 2023. Stay tuned. Bye.